Duality by Wheal, available as an ebook on Amazon. There was an unseasonable chill to the air that morning. Most would have put it down to the change in wind direction. Others, better attuned to the currents of fate than meteorology, knew that something evil was abroad. It had no form, no size and no weight. It was an intention of evil that had festered for almost 2 centuries. Now, lives would be destroyed, confidences betrayed. All it needed was an innocent, for the guilty had long since been chosen. Chapter 1. Nippy one today, Simon. Is it Ernie? I hadn't noticed. The news vendor was nearly 70, and a lifetime of selling papers on London streets had left him with appalling circulation and virtually no resistance to the cold. By contrast, his customer was a young man in his 30s, his angular good looks suggesting the peak of health. "Anyhow, your cosy glow will soon bugger off once you've read that lot," Ernie said darkly as he passed Simon Stafford his daily read. Stafford glanced at the headline. The crime rate was on the up again, particularly rapes and murders, yet the police insisted they were making headway. "And they call it news," he muttered in disbelief. "That's nothing, they call this summer," announced a disgusted Ernie. Stafford grinned before stepping into the traffic. His flat was directly opposite, convenient for the shops, as the letting agent had told him, not least because it was over one itself. He crossed the busy road without incident and was just searching around for his key when he realised that someone was watching him from his doorstep. "It's in your left-hand trouser pocket, Stafford." He followed the advice and produced the key. "Bloody hell, Catherine, how do you do that?" he asked, bemused. His friend, Catherine Whyte, was a brilliant psychic and medium. He turned the key in the door and unbidden she followed him in. "It's always in your left-hand pocket," she answered. "Shall I put the kettle on?" They'd first met on a hypnosis course some 5 years previously. They were both now in their mid-30s, but Catherine's eccentric dress sense made her look older. She lived just a half-mile from Stafford, the short walk taking him from the junkies of Camden High Road to the costly environs of Primrose Hill. Catherine had inherited the London townhouse of her parents. It was a Victorian stucco-fronted property that she couldn't afford to repair, yet couldn't bring herself to sell, the state of its roof an abiding preoccupation. She was, without doubt, the poorest millionaire Stafford had ever met. "I suppose you want your usual exploitative brew?" she asked him as she led the way up the stairs and into his kitchen. She had a knack of becoming hostess even in his own home. "If you mean, do I want a coffee, then yes, please." Catherine had strong views on exploitation. In fact, she had strong views on pretty much everything. She was frustrating, intolerant and autocratic. He liked her very much. He watched as she opened his jar of conglomerate instant with distaste. Then, from a canvas bag in her pocket, she produced some strange-looking leaves which she crushed into a teapot. He watched with amusement as she went through the rigmarole of making herself tea. Finally, their drinks were prepared, and she handed him his coffee. "Here you are, Stafford," she said. "May it poison you." He'd been wearing a name badge when they'd first met. Someone had written his surname on it by mistake, and Catherine had insisted on calling him Stafford ever since. He liked it, and the name was catching on amongst other of his friends. "This is a pleasant surprise. I thought we were due to meet at Odessa next Wednesday," he said, referring to their usual tea-shop haunt. "We are, but I needed to speak with you urgently," she explained as she took a sip of her drink. "Is there a problem?" Now that he thought about it, she seemed agitated. "Potentially, I believe there is." Catherine's voice was always rather high, somehow constrained in the back of her throat. Now concern drove it to an even higher pitch. "Stafford, I think you are in considerable danger. I've come here to warn you to take precautions." "You want to talk about condoms?" he teased. It was flippant of him, but the life of a hypnotherapist is hardly riven with danger. She gave him an impatient look. "I thought you'd be like this," she said, sounding hurt. "I know your views on matters psychic, but I would have thought you might be grateful for a little percipience." It upset his friend. Her frame, inclined to the rotunda at the best of times, was puffed up with indignation. "I'm sorry," he said. "Why don't we sit down, and I'll promise not to be facetious whilst you tell me what's going on." Mollified, she began to explain. "I've been receiving warnings, psychic images, if you will. They kept me awake for most of last night." She gave him a look suggesting that this was his fault. "Now, I know you're a Luddite who thinks that if he can't rap on it with his knuckles, then it doesn't exist, but you're going to have to trust me on this. There's danger for you." Do you know what form this danger will take? He wondered. Because despite his scepticism, he knew that Catherine undoubtedly had a talent. He found her explanations of her skills a little hard to believe. Who was he kidding? He found them impossible to believe. Yet time and again, her predictions have been proved right. I can't specify in what form the threat will appear, she told him. I can merely alert you to its existence and hope that you have the brains to be on guard. I'll take what precautions my dull wits allow, he countered. Your wits are sharp, Stafford. It's the way that you use them that's dull. Oh no, he got her onto this again. Stopping people from smoking is a flagrant misuse of your talents. You have a hypnotic gift, an extraordinary ability to unlock the darkest recesses of the human mind. And what do you do with it? You stop people smoking. It's nothing more than laziness, she concluded in disgust. Stafford had noticed that when Catherine got angry, her syntax grew correspondingly more precise. He supposed it was a relic of her days at Cheltenham Ladies' College. It had come as no surprise to learn that in her final year, his curmudgeonly friend had made senior prefect. Well, my ex-smokers seem very grateful. And so they should be. They're wasting your time. Not herself given to weakness, Catherine had little tolerance for the foibles of others. For people who are wasting my time, they sure help pay the rent. Catherine dismissed this with a wave of her hand. If you used your talent properly, you could make twice what you're earning now. And if I recall rightly, it was you who told me ditch the city and help others for a change. It'll all work out for the best, Stafford, I assure you. How wrong could you be? He asked, glancing around at his sparse accommodation. Not only had his career change been disastrous financially, he wasn't even particularly enjoying it. Catherine failed to look guilty. Don't try to apportion blame on me. Any fool could have seen you weren't meant for banking. Far too ethical. As I said before, if you use your talent properly, you can make twice what you're earning now. You were telling me of potential danger, he reminded her, and could see that she was torn. I got a vague impression of motion, she said. Motion? Yes, a falling branch, perhaps a speeding bus, that sort of thing. Any idea when this could occur, he wondered. Oh, very soon, she said encouragingly, as though talking about a lottery win. Terrific. Yes, there's no doubt that the danger is imminent. Specifics are tricky, but I think we can be fairly certain about the motion part. Right. So I'm going to have a dangerous motion very soon, he said, and was rewarded with a look that reminded him of Miss Fenning, the fearsome maths teacher from his comprehensive school. Just take care, Stafford, Catherine said, leaving him unsure if the warning pertained to the forthcoming danger or her severely tried patience. He rose and kissed her on the forehead. I will, I promise, he said. I wish, she muttered under her breath. They finished their drinks in companionable silence before she took a long, assessing look out of the window. I must be off, she announced. It's going to rain and I have to marshal my buckets. Are we still okay for Odessa next Wednesday? He asked her. Well, I shall be there, she announced before saying, Oh dear, I didn't mean it to sound like that. He smiled. It was rare to see Catherine looking crestfallen. I'll see you at 3, he said confidently. 3 it is then, she confirmed with a nod, and then left, as she always arrived, without hellos or goodbyes.